Hey guys, in this lesson we will cover lesson 2.1, writing equations. Now this is very similar to what we've already covered in 1.1, which was translating expressions. So we're taking what we learned from there and we're just writing equations now. So equations means equal sign. Okay, by the end of this lesson you should be able to translate sentences into equations and equations into sentences. Okay, so some examples. If I'm translating sentences into equations, I'm really just diving in and just going to look at the specific words that they're using and translate that into operations, numbers, letters, so that I can create an equation. Okay, here I'm looking at 7 times the number squared is 5 times the difference of k and m. Okay, so now let's think about some words that means equal. Here I see is. So is one, is the same as, is another. We also talk about equals, equal to. So those are some words that we are specifically looking at to show us that that is our equation symbol. Okay, now what an equation is, it's two expressions on each side of an equation side. Okay, so here I have 7 times the number squared is tells me equals 5 times the difference of k and m. So now I'm looking at two separate expressions on both sides of the equal sign. Now this is what we've already covered. Okay, so 7 times a number squared, I can use any variable. 7 times a number squared, okay, is my equal sign, 5 times the difference of k and m. Times tells me multiplication, difference tells me subtraction inside parentheses. So I have 5 times the difference of k and m. And that's it, that's my equation. Okay, B, 15 times a number subtracted from 80 is 25. So that is tells me equals, and I know I have 25 on just one side. And then on the other side, I need to look at what is in here. 15 times a number, so that tells me 15 times a variable, subtracted from 80. So subtracted from is actually subtraction, and I need to switch what's going on. So I actually have 80 minus 15 times a number. Okay, C. 2 plus the quotient of a number and 8 is the same as tells me equals 16. So I already know that one side will be 16. 2 plus tells me addition. Quotient of tells me division and parentheses of a number and 8. So I have 2 plus the quotient of a number and 8 equals 16. Okay, letter D. 27 times k is h decreased by 9. So I have is here, that tells me equals. H decreased by 9, decreased by tells me subtraction. So I have h minus 9. And I have 27 times k on the other side. 27 times k. So those are my two separate expressions. And then my equal sign is in the middle there. Okay, letter E. a number b divided by 3 is 6 less than c. So I have a number b divided by 3 is, there's my equals, and then I have two separate expressions that I can write. So I have a number b divided by 3. So b divided by 3 is my equal sign, 6 less than c. Now less than tells me I'm going to switch it. So I'm going to switch c minus 6. Okay, 15 more than z times 6 is 11 less than y times 2. So now I'm looking for my equals. That's is, so I know equals is there, and then I have two separate expressions that I can write on both sides. So I have 15 more than z times 6. More than tells me addition, and I'm going to switch them. So I have 6 times z plus 15 is less than also tells me I'm going to switch, but it's subtraction. So I have 2 times y minus 11. Okay, so that is translating sentences into equations. Now let's write an equation to represent each situation. So these are word problems, and this is how we can use equations in real life. Okay, so there are 50 members in the North Carolina Senate. This is 70 fewer than the number in the North Carolina House of Representatives. How many members are in the North Carolina House of Representatives? So I have 50 members in the North Carolina Senate. This is 70 fewer than the number in the North Carolina House. Okay, so it says this is tells me equals. Okay, so there are 50 members in the North Carolina Senate, so I have 50 is 70 fewer than tells me I'm going to switch. Fewer tells me subtraction. So I have House of Representatives minus 70. And that equals the Senate. Okay. Now I need to figure out how many members are in the North Carolina House of Representatives. So all I have to do is solve this equation, add 70 to both sides, and I get my House of Representatives equals 120 people. Okay, in 1919, Britain and France offered a flight that carried 2 passengers at a time. Now there are more than 87,000 flights each day in the US. In how many days will 261,000 flights have occurred in the US? Okay, so here I have 87 flights occur each day, okay? And I have a total of 261,000 flights. So I'm trying to figure out how many flights can occur, or how many days will pass for 261,000 flights. So I have my flights, or how many days, equals the total number of flights, 261,000 divided by the 87,000 occurring each day. So I get 3 days. Okay, a jelly bean manufacturer produces 1,250,000 jelly beans per hour. How many hours does it take to produce 10 million jelly beans? So this is like the flight problem. I'm going to do the same thing. the hours equals the total number of jelly beans divided by what can be produced every hour. And that gives me 8 hours. Okay, let's write some formulas. So we use formulas a lot in algebra and geometry. So let's learn how to write formulas from sentences. The area of a triangle equals the product of 1/2 the length of the base and the height. Okay, so here I have area of a triangle equals, so is, my equal sign. Product tells me multiplication, so I have 1/2 times the base times the height. So I have 1/2 times the base times the height, and that's the area of a triangle. In a right triangle, the square of the measure of the hypotenuse C, so square and C is equal tells me is, to the sum of the squares of the measures of the legs A and B. Okay, so sum tells me addition, squares, I'm taking the squares of A and B, so I have A squared and B squared. And I also have C squared up here. So I have the square of the measure of the hypotenuse, C, so I have C squared equals the sum, so that tells me I'm adding the squares of the measures of the legs, so A squared and B squared. And there's my formula for the hypotenuse of a right triangle. The perimeter of a square equals 4 times the length of a side. So the perimeter of a square equals 4 times the length of the side. So 4 times the side length. And there is my formula. We can also translate algebraic equations into sentences. So just like we did with expressions, we can do that with equations as well. So translate equations into sentences. For A, I have 6 times Z minus 15, then an equal sign, so is or equals 45. B, I'm going to do the same thing. Here I have y squared plus 3x equals w. So I'm just going to write that out. Y squared plus 3 times x is w. Letter C, I have 15 is 25 times u squared plus 2. Okay, for D, I have 3 over 2r minus t cubed equals 132. Now you can write this a couple different ways. I'm going to write it the way that I think most students will write it. So when I look at this fraction here, I can write it as 3 divided by 2 times r minus t cubed is 132. So that's how I think most people write it. You could also write it as 3/2 times r minus t cubed is 132. So you can write it as 3/2 or 3 divided by 2. Both of those work. For E, I have 12 minus 2 times x is negative 5. You could also say equals negative 5. Make sure you write out the negative part. Don't just put a negative in front of the 5. For F, again, I have a squared plus 3 times b equals c divided by 6. So there's a couple different ways you can write these. Those are the ways that I think most people would actually write those. Okay, example 5. We can also write problems given some information. Okay, so we can write our own word problems. Let's let t represent the time that Maxine drove in each turn. I have t plus 4 equals the time that Tia drove in each turn. And then I have an equation here at the very end. I have 2t plus t plus 4 equals 28. So let's kind of think about what these mean. This 2t is twice the time that Maxine drove in each turn, if I'm thinking about the context. I have t plus 4 is the time that Tia drove in each turn, and then I have equals 28. So I'm going to write that down in using the context that it gave me. So I have 2t, so I have 2 times t, but instead of saying t, I'm going to write what t actually equals. T equals the time that Maxine drove in each turn. Then I have a plus, so plus. Now this t plus 4, I know what that also equals, is the time that Tia drove in each turn. So I'm going to use that instead of writing t plus 4. So plus the time that Tia drove in each turn. And then I have equals 28. And that's it. Okay, I have another one. I have P equals Beth's salary. 0.1 P equals the bonus. And then I have an equation. So instead of writing P and 0.1 P, I'm going to write down what they actually mean. So P plus 0.1 P equals 525. Well, I know P equals Beth's salary. So I'm going to write Beth's salary plus, now 0.1 P represents her bonus. Okay, so I'm going to write plus her bonus equals 525. So I wrote a sentence using the context. And then the last one here, I have F equals cost of fries. F plus 1.50 equals the cost of the burger. And then I have an equation over here. Now, instead of using writing out F, I'm going to write out what the context is. So I don't have anything for 4 times something, so I'm going to write 4 times. Now, instead of F plus 1.5, I know that equals the cost of the burger. So 4 times the cost of the burger. Then I have minus F. Now, minus F, I know F means the cost of fries. So minus the cost of fries equals 8.25. So $8.25. Okay. Now, if you have any questions about any of your assignments or any of the content, please do not hesitate to email me or send me a remind message. You can email me at I'll write it down here, hchiffon at spartanburg4.org. Okay, so do not hesitate to contact me if you need to.